All of these problems of today are the direct consequence of women's emancipation and freedom from housework, thanks to capitalism, okay, which made it possible for women to have jobs outside the home for the very first time in the 19th century, no longer to be dependent on husband or father or brother, right? And so this great thing that's happened to us, that allowing us to be totally self-supporting, independent agents, has produced all this animosity between men and women, because the women feel unhappy. Women today, wherever I go, whether it's Italy or Brazil or England or America, okay, or Toronto, okay, the upper middle class professional women are unhappy, miserable. And they don't know why they're unhappy. They want to blame it on men, okay? The men must change. Men must become more like women. No, that is the wrong way to go, okay? It's when men are men, okay, and understand themselves as men, are secure as men, then you're going to be happier.
Yeah, well, there's nothing more dangerous than a weak man.
Yeah, absolutely, okay, and especially all these quislings, okay, spouting feminist rhetoric. When I hear that, okay, it makes me sick. But here's the point. Men and women have never worked side by side, ever. Maybe on the farms, okay, when you were like, maybe one person's in the potato field, the other one's over here in the doing tomatoes or whatever, okay? You had families working side by side, exhausted with each other, no time to have any clash of this. It was a collaborative effort on farms and so on. Never in all of human history have men and women been working side by side. And women are now the pressure about Silicon Valley. They're also sexist. Oh, they don't allow women in and so on. The men are being men in Silicon Valley, all right, and so on. And the
especially
women,
the engineers.
And the women are demanding that, oh, this is terrible, you're being sexist. Maybe the sexes, okay, have their own particular form of rhetoric, their own particular form of, of identity, okay. Maybe, okay, we need to re-examine, okay, this business about, maybe we have to perhaps accept some degree of tension and conflict between the sexes, okay, in a work environment. I don't mean harassment. I'm talking about women feeling disrespected, how somehow their opinions when they express them, okay, are not taken seriously, or even Hillary Clinton is complaining. Oh, when a woman writes something online, she's attacked immediately, and so on. Well, everyone's attacked online. What are you talking about? The world is tough. The world is competitive. Okay, identity is honed, okay, by conflict. The idea that there should be no conflict, that we have to be in this bath, okay, of approbation,
yes,
and which is
well,
just,
that's the devouring
infantile.
mother. That's right. It's absolutely infantile. I mean, okay, so a couple of things there. Well, the first thing is that the agreeableness trait that divides men and women most, there's three things that divide women and men most particularly from the psychometric perspective. One is that women are more agreeable than men. And so that seems to be the primary maternal dimension as far as I can tell. It's associated with a desire to avoid conflict, but it's associated with interpersonal closeness, compassion, politeness. Women are reliably higher than men, especially in the Scandinavian countries and in the countries where egalitarianism has progressed the farthest. So that's where the difference is maximized, which is one of the things James Damore pointed out quite correctly in his infamous Google memo. Okay, women are higher in negative emotion, so that's anxiety and emotional pain. That difference is approximately the same size. And again, that maximizes in egalitarian societies, which is extremely interesting. And then the biggest difference is the difference in interest between people and things. And so women are more interested in people and men are more interested in things, which goes along quite nicely with your car anecdote. But the thing about men interacting with men, again, is that it isn't that they respect each other's viewpoints. That's not exactly right. What happens with a man, and I know a lot of men that I would regard as remarkably tough people for one reason or another. And everything you do with them is a form of combat. Like if you want your viewpoint taken seriously, often you have to yell them down. And like they're not going to stop talking unless you start talking over them, And it's not like men are automatically giving respect to other men, because that just doesn't happen. It's that the combat is there and it's expected. And one of the problems, and so this is part of the reason why I think men are bailing out of so much of academia and maybe the academic world in general, and maybe the world in general, is that men actually don't have any idea how to compete with women. Because the problem is that if you unleash yourself completely, then you're an absolute bully. And there's no doubt about that, because if men unleash themselves on other men, that can be pretty goddamn brutal, especially for the men that are really tough. And so that just doesn't happen with women ever. But so you can't unleash yourself completely. If you win, you're a bully. If you lose, well, you're just bloody pathetic. So how the hell are you supposed to play a game like that? You know, so I've worked with lots of women in law firms in Canada, for example, and high achieving women, like really remarkable people, I would say. And they're often nonplussed, I would say, by the attitude of the men in the law firm, because they would like to see everyone pulling together because they're all part of the same team. Whereas the men are like at each other's throats in a cooperative way, because they want the law firm to succeed, but they want to be the person who's at the top of the success hierarchy, right? So, and that doesn't jive well with the more competitive or cooperative ethos that's part and parcel of agreeableness. And so we don't really have any idea how to integrate male and female dominance hierarchies.
Exactly. That's exactly right. This is why I love this show, Real Housewives, which Gloria Steinem scorns. And just last night, okay, I was watching an episode, all right, where the women were at each other, okay, at a party and all, in recounting. But I said this to you, but you said this to me, and the men got together there and said, well, this is the way they communicate, with each other, and said, men, we men, okay, just will have a fist fight, and 10 minutes later we're going to have a beer at the bar next to each other, and so on. And I have observed that my entire life.
My daughter used to be really irritated about that, because she like most people, was the target of feminine conspiratorial bullying at one. She's no pushover, my daughter, so it wasn't like this was a continual thing or that she didn't know what to do about it. But she had observed these girls conspiring against her and then blackening her name on Facebook, which is part and parcel of the typical female bullying routine, which is often reputation demolition, right? That there's a good literature on that. And then she'd watch what would happen if my brother or my son would have a dispute with his friends, and maybe they were drinking and there was a dispute. They'd have a fight, and then the next day they were friends again. And that's another thing that's strange, is that like men have a way of bringing a conflict to a head and resolving it, right? And that it isn't obvious to me that women have that same, perhaps you might call it a luxury, but it's also the case that men don't know what to do when they get into a conflict with a woman, because what the hell are you supposed to do? Mostly what you're supposed to do is avoid it.
Well, I've seen, I don't know whether this crosses into other countries, but that there's a certain kind of taunting and teasing that boys do with each other that toughens them, okay, and where they don't take things seriously. But a girl's feelings become extremely hurt if she hears something that is very tough, sarcastic against her. So I do feel that there are profound differences between the sexes in terms of emotions, in terms of communication patterns. My father used to say that he could never follow women's conversations. He said women don't even finish sentences. The women understand immediately what the other woman is saying. Okay, in the way that women tend to be more interested, or have been traditionally more interested in soap operas. It's not just that the women were home without jobs. It's that honestly, I believe that soap opera does mirror the way women talk to each other. There's these communication patterns that have been built up through women, the world of women, okay, which was, it made sense.